Good evening. I'm Rob Rohrbaugh. Welcome to Central Omaha at the September meeting of the Global Faith Institute, where we are ambassadors for the gospel of Christ, advocates for the victim of Islam, and champions of the United States Constitution. I would like to mention our website, which some of you, I believe, are on watching this, globalfaith.org. Please go there to keep up on current events, to get recordings of this meeting and others if you wish to share them with friends and family. And don't forget to make a donation while you're there. We appreciate the help and support. And I would like to then open for our local people, at least with a prayer. Dear Father, we thank you for the opportunity to meet freely in meetings like this in the glorious country of the United States of America, the freest nation in the world. We endeavor to continue being a shining light on the hill to spread freedom throughout the globe. We ask your blessing for the food we eat and guidance for this meeting and always. We pray for a victim of riots in America, Jake Gardner and his family. We pray for all those who are victims of violence, and we pray for peace in America. We do all this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I mentioned Jake Gardner. I think many of you are interested. If you're local, you know that he has been, news of him, his suicide has been on the radio. And he is truly a victim. He was on his back in a chokehold. The rioters, not only persuaded the Douglas County attorney, who had already said that he saw nothing that he could be charged with. And I think I'm missing something here for the local people. Thank you, Larry. So the county attorney, not wanting to lose credibility in the process of the Douglas County Attorney's Office, turned over the case to a grand jury who saw fit to indict Jake Gardner with counts not of murder, but of other lesser crimes. The pressure was on. He was threatened so much he left Omaha. He went to California because he was afraid he was going to be murdered. He cooperated with the officials, made plans to come back, but after his GoFundMe account was cut off, he saw no way to survive and shot himself. My prayers are with him, with his family, and I think we'll hear more from our favorite speaker, Dr. Mark Christian.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Rob. Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody online, and for people coming here today. And thank you for coming. Really appreciate it. And I would love to encourage you in the very beginning to, have questions ready, whether online or over here. We need to hear from each other. I think there is lots of despair, lots of anger, lots of fear. And, questions is not to me, it's question with all of us so we can discuss them and so forth. So we can all voice our opinion, can vent a little bit about what's going on in our midst and so forth. So I encourage you to submit your questions online or actually prepare questions over here because we all benefit from this. And I'm going to try my best to start the discussion about that, okay? There's many ways actually I was thinking about how can I get started today. And what are kind of topics, and I have enormous amount of topics I want to discuss and cover today, and I will do my best to cover as much as I can from the things that I have planned. And there's a lot going on. But I want to get started with this, and my final decision is to get started with this. I received, I had our meeting during the lunch today, and then, in between the two meetings, I received enormous phone calls, actually. I received lots of phone calls, not from people who are listening, but just from different people, inquiring and asking and checking and friends and others and so forth. I was on the phone nonstop today. And what I sense from everybody is a little bit, not a little bit, a big deal of despair, lot of anger, lots of confusion. What really was hardest on is giving up, you know. And my advice to all of this, and from my own perspective, you know, all of us are human beings, and all of us are very weak and incapable on our own efforts. Whether we agree with this, believe this or not, this is a fact. And if I look back, you know, 5 years ago, and we have those meetings, and even 10 years ago when we have those meetings, and we talked about enormous amount of things and stress and danger and plans and scheming and so forth. And at that time, I always kept faith. I always believed that things would be better, even though things looks dire. My strength is not coming from anything other than faith. The only way that we can get through this is to understand 100% that we have a God who is bigger than all of us, that is a God who is in control, that God can do things that we can't, and He has a plan, and a perfect one. Even though in the midst of our despair, midst of our confusion, midst of our, defeat, and everything is going around us, He's there. He is going to fulfill His promise, and He's going to do good by all of us in one way or another. And again, if you look back 5-6 years ago, and if we looked at what is going to happen in the future, we have never imagined that things will turn around. And for example, when I talked about Obama and what he's doing in his administration in the Middle East and all the kind of stuff, we kind of, you know, and we have multiple speakers come to speak for us as well. And we have Robert Spencer, we have many speakers who told us what is going on and how the infiltration in the federal and how in the FBI and all of that stuff. And we feel lots of despair and no way out of it. Today, Obama is on the defeated side. And we never imagined that will happen ever, but it did. He's trying to fight back. That's true. But we are able to hand some kind of victory in 2016. Would you agree with that or not? And we are in a place today that we are continuing the fight, but we have never even imagined for a second that we'll be in this place today, okay? We got another shot, another victory, but again, God who delivered victories and after victory, and also a lot of putting us on our knees and having despair about multiple things happening in our life, He's the same God who is a loving God, caring God, is in control. And this is my own encouragement in this life. I cannot do things on my own. I don't think any of you can. If you claim you can do that, good luck with it, but it's not going to happen. And this is my message to everybody in this life. I actually do the same thing with my own son. You know, when he is worried about an exam or worried about what's going to happen in the future, and talking about God and how He's in control, and I say, we are limited in our abilities. We cannot do it in this life on our own. We have no idea what the future holds. I can look back at my life, you know, 20 years ago, actually, in 2003, when I was in the back of an ambulance after having an assassination attempt on me by my own father. Do you think I'll be able to think that I'm here today, blessed with friends and family and all of those people around me? No, I would never even imagine. I thought the only thing that kept me from killing myself that day is because I had a son. Today, I look back and said that would be the most stupid thing ever, because I have lots of friends. I have a new country that I claim to be mine. I have a freedom. I have many things that I never imagined to happen, you know, when I was in that ambulance in 2003. So have faith, stay strong, and keep at it. Do not give up, and do not let fear take any hold in your life whatsoever. That's my opening statement, kind of, okay? Thank you. Thank you. Second thing I want to talk about, you know, we had Trevor last event, and I'm sorry for any of the glitches that took place with all the communication and so forth. Some of you are here, some were not, but we tried our best, and we had some kind of problems, but we will try to fix them. The reason we want to fix them because we have a lineup of people that want to join our meetings and to speak to us, and it's amazing actually tool that we can use instead of people flying in and flying out. I talked to Sarah Carter, Sarah Sanders even might do it. I actually talked to her. So I have a lineup for very good people that are able to help us and to be able to share their message, and it's going to be easy to plug in and plug out. So we wanted to perfect that kind of technology to work it out in the future. So I apologize for any problems last month, and we will work on fixing them, and we will be able to get better, and we're able to get lots of good speakers to speak to us and so forth. And thank you for Mary and and those who carried the event afterwards, so people online did not have any problems. They cut us off and just went on with the system right away, and it was much better. One of the things that Trevor shared that I want to talk about for a minute is actually he talked about a whole bunch of things, and one of them he was talking about Ginsburg. And in Lincoln, in our meeting in Lincoln, he talked about Ginsburg is going to retire in New Zealand, his country of origin. And I told him, no, Trevor, I interrupted. I said, no, she's not going to go retire anywhere. She's dying very soon, I think, in the next month or so. And it just happened that she died before our next meeting. So, and, I'm going to ask you this. Can we actually in any way have sympathy for the death of Hitler? Can we? Can we have any sympathy for the death of Mussolini or for Mao or for any of those who brought bloodshed in our world? Can we? Okay. It is not because the unborn have no voice, have no names yet, have no birth certificate yet, that we should not look at them as the same as the victims of Hitler and Mao and others, right? And so I'm not going to celebrate Ginsburg's death. I'm not going to give her any respect whatsoever, because she's a woman who advocated, by her own words, the death of kids throughout her career, and she was an advocate by her own admission, and we should not have advocates on the Supreme Court whatsoever. And her death was in a very crucial time. It's very interesting that she actually herself, going back to what we talked about, Ginsburg herself thought that she doesn't want to retire during Obama's years because she was completely confident that Hillary Clinton is going to win for the next election, and she will be able to retire during her administration, and so Hillary will be the one who's going to, put the next one in her seat. Well, God has different plans. Hillary did not win. And she died a few days before the election, just enough time so we can elect a new person that is not going to be an advocate, at least not advocate for death, but a champion for life. And that is the best thing ever, don't you think? Amen to that. And I really commend President Trump and even Mitt Romney. It's very hard to give any credit to Mitt Romney, but I have to. He's a political hack, and he knows why he's doing what he's doing for his own political reasons. But no matter what, God uses everything for his own victory and for his own plan. So I am happy that everything is coming together the way it is, okay? And I think we're going to have an amazing victory coming up before the election, when we're going to have another Supreme Court that's going to be champion of the law, not champion for the death of the kids, right? Okay. So I actually received, I had a long meeting with a very old friend that he's a very influential lawyer, influential family. I'm not going to mention his name. He's in Omaha. He's a young man, powerful, really. And we've been friends for years. And I didn't see him for a few years. But we have been texting back and forth. So we had like 3 hours meeting in his backyard and talked about things. And one of the things he said, Mark, it gives me goosebumps because, like 10, 11 years ago, you called the racial divide that's going on in the country today and what is going on. And I have no idea why you said that 10 years ago or over, and why they said the things that you have said that time. And I said, I'm not a prophecy making. I'm not. It's just basic things, because I lived through life and I studied the life that I lived very well, and I know the methods and the deals of how dictators and how the evil and the devil works. And when I can look at the history and look at the past and look at the methods, it's very easy to predict what is next and what's going to happen. It's very simple and very easy, right? But over here in America, we got it very easy for so long, and I'm so happy with that. We are blessed, and I've been praying to continue being blessed. But I think it is time for testing today for all of us to what we can do in the next generation and the next future. And I believe that God has an amazing plans. And I moved on and talked about what Obama was trying to do. So I want to share with you some of that stuff so I can understand what's going on today. Well, my belief and my understanding that what took place at the end of Bush administration, and even during Bush administration by wars and so forth, was some kind of a plan that people are kind of taking America into a wrong direction in multiple ways. The message and the statement of Bush right after 9/11 attacks was a very misfortunate thing that took place when he said Islam is a religion of peace and defended Islam instead of actually trying to give the stage for Muslims to defend themselves. He took it upon his shoulder to deceive Americans by his statements. And then he led us into wars without plans and to get deceived into this. And I don't think Bush knew what he was doing, because he, in my opinion, was not given a very good advice. He surrounded himself with very bad advisors. He also worked with the Clintons closely, and the Clintons are one of the biggest deceivers in our time right now, only surpassed by Obama later on. So those are people who give him advice and led him to one thing after another. And I can talk for hours about how we, what happened in Afghanistan war and how he was deceived, and how Dick Cheney was deceived into making decisions that was horrific. One of them, you can check some of the incidents that took place right before Afghan war, and then later on when he led us into the Iraq war as well, and how that was not planned, and end up to increase our debt and borrow enormous amount of money and put America in a horrific situation. And we end up spending over $6.5 trillion in efforts that completely resulted into zero benefits to the American people, and even benefits to anybody in the whole world. And then when I talked about Obama and what he did after he got in office, and the chaos that that he created in the Middle East, and his plans and so forth. And Obama was coming in with a very strong agenda and plan. He was coming in to destroy American economy. This is why he borrowed more than $9 trillion on top of the $6.5 that was done by Bush, and we end up with this enormous amount of national debt that we have today. So it is an atrocity for anybody to say that he fixed the economy. Imagine if your husband or the household decided that they have, lots of needs, and then the person went out and borrowed, triple the amount of money, the income of that family. And he says, you know what? He bought us nice cars and he got us nice stuff. Well, we are not paying for it. We did not pay for it. His economical standards and the way he did things was horrific in every way, and he led us into despair, and that we're going to be continuing having for years. The other thing is, it's ironic that he started, even before he started his tenure as a president, that he was given the Nobel Peace Prize, and then later on he brought in bloodshed in every corner of the planet. Let aside what he did in the Middle East and so forth. His plan is quite simple: bring America down on its knees, destroy American economy, bring America to the same level of every other nation so we can have an equal opportunity with everybody else, and destroying the idea that America is special. And bigger than all of this is his plans in the Middle East. His plans in the Middle East is quite simple. He's going to replace the governments of the Middle East by the Muslim Brotherhood leaders and members, and he succeeded in that until the Russians basically the Russians and Putin stopped him and stayed in his way from doing this in Syria and so forth. And this is why he tried to cater to Putin for years and give him the reset button, and then later on Putin becomes his biggest enemy, and this is why he used the Russian as this thing to stop Trump later on, and claiming all the stuff that Trump did. Are you following what I'm saying or not? There's somebody who's confused. You're confused a little bit. Do you have confusion? No? You're good? Everybody's good? You're following what I'm saying? Taking you through that journey? Okay? So when we look today, with this guy, Obama and the Clintons and so forth for years, including the Bush administration and the people that did all of this, all of a sudden you have a man comes in with a common sense. Agree with him, agree with his personality or not, what he's trying to accomplish is completely the opposite of what the president before him was trying to do, starting from the Clintons, actually from the Bush to the Clintons to the Obama. All of them were taking the country in a certain direction, and all of a sudden a guy would put the brakes on all of that and want to change direction. One of the things he wants to do is changing the Middle East into more of a westernized and more of a shape that we can be able to work with in the United States and with Israel as well. You know, lifting up the economy, putting a brake on what the Chinese are doing to America, putting a brake to what the Europeans are doing to America. So do you think somebody with the level of Hillary Clinton, you know, anger issues, and you know, put Bill Clinton on the side because he's useless. He just wants to go and get some whatever he wants to get. I don't know. Okay, so we are a Christian organization, so I'm not going to say what he wants to get. You know, it's just beyond me. Okay, so if you look at Hillary Clinton, her ambition and her anger and what she's trying to accomplish, and put even Hillary on the side, look at Obama. You are doing yourself a huge, big mistake if you think that Obama is a weak person or not a smart person, or he is not in control today. He is the most powerful man in the world today. And he is the most powerful man in the opposition to Trump. And he is pulling most of the strings. Don't you think for a second that is Nancy Pelosi with her shaky hands and weird neck going on around like that she is controlling things? I'm sorry, okay? It's not. She's not controlling anything. She cannot even control what she has to say, okay? And do not think for a second that all of those mediocre people out there that are doing anything. The fact of the matter is there is people who are pulling strings out there. And Obama is one of the biggest people that pulling strings, okay? And from my own experience in life and from understanding where I'm coming from and the system I lived in and so forth, dictators never come into a country and claiming, I'm a dictator, I'm going to put you in jail, I'm going to stop you from speaking and all of that stuff. Because you have never seen dictators in your life, you read about them, and you have no idea how they get in power. Right? You know that all of a sudden we have Mao or Hitler and so forth. You read about it here and there, but most of dictators come in as saviors for all their nations. And the idiots and the people who does not understand anything, or people who fall for their lies for healthcare or for whatever. And it's a weird thing. All of the dictators promise almost the same thing. We're going to lift you up. We're going to get you everything you want, and all of kind of dreams and stuff like that based on absolutely no reality whatsoever. And all of a sudden, dictators come in place, right? So when I understand that, and when I read that history, and I wish and I encourage you to go back in history and understand, very small things, how people actually get involved in how people get into power, how Hitler was able to pave his way into the power that he was able to establish and so forth. Look at Mao. Look at all those leaders that were dictators. Look at the even current leaders today and how systems have changed after another, okay? Basically what they do is they create this chaos that we live in today. They create this kind of, one of the biggest things that they do, creating a chaos and the fear and the despair, and people discourage and people feel like they are already defeated and all that stuff. This is common with all of those dictators, okay? So if we look today and what's going on, and let's examine the things that's going on. Basically, really, if you actually turn off the TV, you're not going to hear much about what's going on. You're not going to have this kind of fear and despair that you're feeling every day, right? It doesn't mean that it does not exist. It does, but it's not on the level that they are trying to make it looks like it is, okay? And one of the two big things going on right now is the racial divide in America. And the second thing is the COVID and the virus. Well, everything aside, it's looking very interesting that Biden and Harris, which is actually, by the way, supposed to be coming in and bring a boost to the campaign, and she's not bringing anything, right? She was a failure when she was running for president, and she's even a bigger failure when she's running for a VP, right? She is not bringing any enthusiasm. I'm not sad about that. I'm not complaining. I'm just happy, right? And I actually look at the followers and how they increase. And one of the things I see with the following on social media, and she did not increase by maybe 10% on her social media when she became the VP candidate. So that's a telling that all those polls are actually full of crazy data. It's not true whatsoever. So actually, I'm going to include the polls into the equation. Three things is going on. the polls, so you feel like you're defeated, the COVID, so you can feel fear and worried about your life, and the racial divide, so you can see what, also despair and all that kind of stuff that's going on, okay? So if you look at, for example, the COVID and the virus and so forth, is the virus really exist? Yeah, okay. But the numbers are true? Now, watch the CNN and watch all of those news outlets and how much they are trying to push that it is a horrific disease and kill all of that number. Are those numbers true or not? Where CDC one day says, we find out that it's actually transferred by airborne and is not transferred by just 6 feet. We have to be away from each other, I don't know, like a stadium size or something. And then they took it down next day after they destroyed the market for a day or two, right? So here is the thing. When you look at Biden and Harris and their narrative of fixing the virus, they tell us, here is how they are telling us, and I just going to put those statements together. The first one, they say that Trump messed up. He missed all the warning signs, and he brought this kind of disaster on us today. Means that the train already moved out of the station, and we're already on a trajectory that we're going to have death and carnage like I've never seen before in America because of this virus. This is what they're telling us? And at the same time, they put their statements out there, they're going to fix the problem. And okay, so if the train already passed, how are they going to fix the problem, I would say? That's a very simple question. How are we going to do it? By saying we're going to wear masks, by doing the things, but you already said that the spread is out there and there's no way to control it. Well, are they going to bring back time? I think Biden would love to do that, right? He would love to go back 40, 50 years and fix things, Is he going to go to Michael J. Fox and get his car for Back to the Future to get us, back in 2019 or 18, and so he fixed the problem? I wish somebody would ask him that question. How are you going to do it? If all what we can do is wear masks, well, everybody knows already that they need to wear masks and they are not wearing it. Are you going to go shoot people when they are not wearing it, or what are you going to do? People already know that, you said it multiple times enough, that you have to wear masks. So his even solution is not valid whatsoever. It's based on banana stuff, right? So go back to the facts. The virus exists, right? The numbers is true or not. I actually like to go and look at other countries and see what other countries are doing. And before I go to that, what is the job of the government in a pandemic or public health? The job of the government, public health, and a pandemic is not to monitor or not to look at the number of deaths. Their job and responsibility is the spread of the disease. Why? Public health is not responsible about the death. The number of people who are sick go to the hospital, and it's the job of the doctors to fix that problem. So the number of death is depending on the medical facilities and how the doctors can deal with the virus or a disease or whatever it is. So the government job, for example, in smoking, if cigarettes cause cancer cause death, then the government try their best to minimize the number of people who are smoking. They cannot control how many people die from cancer, can they? They cannot, because it's not their job. They have no control of that. It is the job of the medical research and the abilities of doctors to fix it. Are you following what I'm saying? So if we're going to look at Trump failure or success in this, I would love to compare that with Obama's control of a disease as well. N1H1 is a pandemic, was a pandemic as well. And the number of people who got sick with the N1H1 is 60 plus million people. And the people who got sick with the COVID is 5 or 6 or maybe 7 million people. So if you compare 60 to 7, who seems to be successful? Numbers does not lie, don't you think? Right? This is why in their convention, they never talked about N1H1. They talk about Ebola. Well, Ebola was never been a pandemic. And Obama, the smart man, he let all of those mediocre people to come and talk about the Ebola, but he never uttered it out of his mouth, because he knows what he say and what he does, he should not say. This is how smart he is. He lets people take the problems and not him. Okay, so if we compare the success from a public control and public, health perspective and a government control, Obama was a failure. Trump was not. Okay. The number of deaths and how much people die from the virus, I will have to make this disclaimer as well, is, well, the government and the public health might be a little bit responsible for number of deaths, even though I said no. And the only responsibility is the number of people die from a disease. So if the government was good enough to control the number of sickness, they will indirectly control the number of people die, not because of their ability, but because they are preventing a lot of bigger pool to the doctors to take care of it. But at the end of the day, it is the doctors who can be responsible in the medical facilities of the number of people who are dying from a disease. You are following what I'm saying? It's quite simple stuff, but nobody talks about it whatsoever. This is the facts. These are the things that we need to deal with. Then when we look at the number of people who died from the virus, in the United States, they are trying to convince us that we have more than 207 people died, and the percentage compared to the number of sick is so high, okay? Because we have a political agenda. I'm not making things up. You need to look in and watch the news to know if they are actually having a political agenda with the virus or not. If not, Biden and Harris is not going to go around and say they're going to fix the virus that they already claimed that is already spread beyond even any fixing anymore, right? So when you look at a country like Japan or country like Saudi Arabia, for example, okay, Saudi Arabia, of all of those countries, what kind of medical facilities they have? They have 300, almost 400 people who got sick with the virus, and the percentage of death is less than 8,000 people. So they have like around 1% or less, or 2% maximum. Japan is the same thing. Japan is a small number of people died from it, almost 1,000 something, and 80,000 people got sick from it. So if you want a real numbers of how deadly this virus is, we are not any different from the people in Saudi Arabia. They have different, stuff, but, we are human beings like everybody else in the country. And if the virus has a serious death rate over here, it should have the same death rate in other countries, right? But it's not. If you want to look at the real deadliness of the virus, you look outside of this country and you see how, you need to look at Japan, you need to look at Saudi Arabia, you look at the countries in Africa and see how those people have overpopulation, lack of hygiene. I don't think they have money to eat, to buy masks, all of that stuff, and still the number of sickness and the number of death is very low. And the virus supposedly is not supposed to discriminate. If you look at Africa, for example, it should discriminate African-American. They are telling us that people over here, African-American, die more than anything else. So the same genetic pool of African-Americans supposedly be affecting Africa, but it is not. We need to look at those numbers to understand how deadly this disease is. Well, this disease is deadly for people who have underlying disease, like cancer, or even cured from cancer before, because of the chemicals of cancer disease and curing from it, chemical radiology and chemotherapy and so forth, creating so much damage to the cell. When the virus comes in, it adds more damage to the cells, and this is why it leads to death. So it's not somebody has to be having cancer today, even survival of cancers, old age, cardiac problems, diabetes, all of those stuff. But the rest of the population do not have the same problems. Are they saying this data in the news? No, because they want to create fear more than cure. The virus is supposed to be dealt with in a medical perspective. It is not. Doctors are activists everywhere today, from the CDC to the WHO to Sanjay Gupta to Dr. Fauci, to every doctor who has an ability. And unfortunately, lots of doctors are looking for some fame, lots of sometime on the news, get famous in way or another, and they are willing to come, unfortunately, some of them coming to say data that is not true, and manipulating data and so forth. So number one, the virus exists, but politically have been used to create the same thing that every dictator does, creating a chaos and fear so can establish what's going on and so forth. Going to the second thing that they are trying to do as well is the racial divide. It's a very weird thing that usually racial divide all of a sudden appears during the time of the election in every election cycle. Sometimes it's very interesting, it seems like it's a very good time for African Americans to shoot police and to run away from police and resist arrest between elections, because they obviously are not going to be killed. But as soon as the time comes in, then things happen this way. Okay. One of the things, if you look at Louisiana, for example, I don't think any of you or me or anybody else, when they shoot at the police and shoot the police in their leg, expecting that they're going to get out of this situation in one piece. You agree with that or not? I think it does not take so much. If I'm going to have a gun and I'm going to pointing at the police and I'm going to shoot the police and I'm going to actually hit the police, then this situation is going to escalate and probably somebody's going to be dead and probably it's going to be me, right? And I'm not going to be able to say to the police, you know, why did you shoot me? Well, you shoot at the police. It's not resisting arrest. It's not running away from arrest. It's taking it to the highest level of attacking the police and shooting at them. So I'm not sure why there is riots today going on, you know, in Louisville, Kentucky. It's very weird, don't you think? And it seems like this is a rule in every country. You know, if you shoot the police in Egypt or in Saudi Arabia or in Madagascar or in Japan, you're going to have the same result, don't you think? So the racial discrimination going in America is not based on those facts. It's based on political agenda, right? And coming back to what's happening in Omaha over here, which is unbelievable really for me, okay? I talked about myself, you know, in the back of that ambulance. My problems in Egypt, in a country like Egypt, started way back when I had the first confrontation. Before this confrontation, my life was awesome. Coming from a very well-to-do dad, who is a very successful, very popular, very famous physician. We own a hospital in the middle of the highest neighborhood in Cairo. I'm driving the BMWs and you know, the German cars and having so much fun. And I'm in, you know, going to medical school. Everything I need in life, I have it. I am very popular. People point at me. My friends is envy of me, even if they are more successful or more wealthy. You know, the righteousness I have in my family was kind of a source of so much pride and so forth, right? This is the life I lived when I was, you know, child and teenager. And then I had one thing to do is I have to check my own religion I believed in, because I wanted to know. I'm a very inquisitive person, and I do not take things for face value. I have to check them out. God made me that way. And, you know, I got angry at God multiple times. He made me that way, but He made me that way. And I'm accepting this more and more today, and I'm thanking Him for it. But at times it was not, right? And then when I start coming with questions to my own father, who's supposed to be a religious leader and imam for years and years and years, since he was 14 years old, and I'm asking him in his early 50s, hey, Dad, I have some questions about the religion I believed in. My life has changed upside down in a day. Okay, and all of a sudden, the compound I was living in with all my cousins, 40 of them playing and having fun, everybody's looking down on me and ousting me. And the evidence of this, on the top of all of that stuff, is the attempt of my life in 2003. And it did not stop there. The feeling that I was ousted from everybody, that I am excluded, that everybody looks down at me, that I have no friends, nobody, no family, nothing whatsoever, that if I died, multiple times I thought if I died, people will celebrate my death, which is actually turned to be true in 2003, more than they will even, you know, mourn that. I didn't know at some point if they're going to even bury me if I died. This is how much despair I was in. I didn't even know if they would know that I died or not. This is how much I was ousted from everybody. They tried to stop me from gaining money or making money, even as a doctor, and every way that I was ousted. So when I have all of this life, I find one hope. The reason I didn't call myself is because of my son, as I said, right? And the other thing is, I had so much hope from a priest that I met in the Red Sea, that he told me, son, you know, it's not going to happen over here to look for Christ. You need to go to the United States and you're going to have more freedom over there. So I came to this country for safe haven, to be accepted again, to find a place that I'm not going to worry about my life anymore, that I'm not going to be worried about the life of my son or my family anymore, that I can live freely, speak freely, practice my faith freely, and claim Jesus freely. This is my hope to come to this country, and this is why I came over here. Okay? So when I look at things happening today and look at Jake Gardner and what happened to him, it put me back to not where I lived in Egypt, even worse than that. Jack Gardner, if you know him or you know about him and what he did, the guy was you know, enlisted in the military, and he was fighting. He was a veteran. He was in the first wave during the Iraq invasion, and he was in 2003 in the first you know, troops that went into Iraq. He fought the good fight for the country that he believed in. He enlisted because of 9/11 and what's happening, you know, at that time. And he thought he's going to do for a just war, and he's going to do right by his country. And he did. So he's a veteran. He's not a racist. If you look at 2013 interview on our local TV over here, and his best friend that introduced him on TV was a black guy working for the news. And he said, this is my best friend. This was not a stunt. Was a real thing. He was getting together with an African-American person that he was also a veteran, that they were remembering the days that they did in 2003 together, right? And then in that interview, he talked about his PTSD. He talked about the problems that he's struggling with and the fear that he has and the problems that he has from the war. So this is a guy who fought for this country, right? And then later on, when he is trying to run his business, family business, his dad and himself, they have 2 bars over here in Omaha, in the Midwest, away from all the hustle and bustle and crazies of other states. And then he sees those riots coming out. He did what he thought is the right thing. He turned the lights off so people will pass him and not look at his business and try to instigate any problems. But he was also ready because he's a fighter. He's a military warrior. He knows what is going on. And what he saw in the streets is very similar to the streets of Baghdad. He saw people are trying to destroy his country. And you know what? When we go enlist in the military, and I was not fortunate enough to fight for this country, if I was young enough, it was back in the day, I would have done it. Because this is a country that gives me life. I will fight, I'll give my life for it. And part of the oath that they did is they fight for this country and protect it from any kind of enemy, foreign and domestic. So he was following his oath. He's doing exactly what he sworn on doing. And he was protecting his own country and his own business. And he's trying to mind his own business as well. And when he saw his dad attacked, he went out and he flashed his gun. So people say, you know what? Don't mess with me. Just pass by. I am ready. Do not mess with me. I think that's a very simple tactic. That is, I would do the same. I think many of us will do the same. I think those people who are mediocre people on the news would have done the exact same if they've been attacked. Whether it's Anderson Cooper or Don Lemon and all those people. If they can fight, I don't think they can anyway, you know. But if they are able to fight, they're able to push deceptions and lies. But in real life, they are capable of absolutely nothing because they're a scum of America, okay? And when he was trying to protect himself and flashed, a woman charged him, and he fired 2 bullets not to hit anybody. He wants people to leave him alone. Leave him alone. Leave my business alone. All what he did. And then this guy who is a criminal, a thug, saw him that he's firing his gun. He took advantage of him giving his back and jumped on his back and put him in a chokehold. And all of you have watched the video. And if you did not, go watch it on YouTube and everything, right? And he put him on the floor face down and put him in a chokehold. What is going to be supposed to wait? To get his neck snapped? To get killed? So after that, he's going to go and get his dad? What is he going to supposed to do? He asked the guy, get off my back 2 times. And then after that, he started shooting the gun. He did not aim to kill. He was just shooting backward. He didn't even look at what he's shooting. He's shooting back. And the thug got the bullet and died. So I would not even claim that he was aiming to shoot to kill. He was aiming so he would not die. That's simple as that. And then as soon as that happened, he was taken into custody, spent hours into custody, and then they released him because the video shows very clearly that he was defending himself, right? And then the landlord immediately sent a letter of eviction to him and to his dad, lost his business that moment. And then the landlord did not stop there. He sent a letter of apology to the community and to the thug that was hitting his own property and saying, it's time for heal and I'm sorry for what happened. I will do whatever it takes. Compromise never works, by the way. I'm coming from country, and I have seen countries that tried their best to compromise with the dictators. And you know what that means? They die last. But everybody who compromise, when you bend your knee in front of any human being, he's not going to give you grace. He's not going to lift you up. Every human being that you bow down for, he's going to try to take advantage of that and run you over. I'm saying it from an experience. It doesn't work. The only person that you can bow down and know that he's going to lift you up is God, is Jesus. Nothing else. Nobody else. Okay? So this landlord tried to evict him and lost him his business. And then, he left, skipped the city so he can go find a place where he can be safe a little bit for a couple of days so things calm down. And then he learned that people are gathering together to put a list of criminal charges against him. So he tried to raise some funds. He has no business. He doesn't want to wipe all his money and put his dad homeless. He tried his best to raise some money. And nobody even stand for him. Nobody helped him whatsoever. And GoFundMe, when he put the page, it was shut down. The thug was able to raise $300,000 in less than 1 week. He raised zero. The thug was able to raise funds through GoFundMe, a thug with a list of criminal activities, a thug that was going through the streets as a domestic enemy to the United States of America, destroying shops and businesses and creating chaos in the streets of America. This thug was able to raise over GoFundMe $300,000, and the guy that was protecting himself, who fought for this country, he was in despair and lost his business, was shut down and was not able to get a penny. And then when he was out there, guy was a PTSD, and then he saw the list of the charges that was mounted against him, and he saw that he has no money to defend himself, no business to defend himself, nothing that he can do, and somebody with a whole bunch of depression and PTSD and all that kind of stuff, on his way to the clinic, he decided to take his life. I think it is all our fault, not only the thugs that they did that, because we did not stand for him. And you know, today in the morning, Malia, one of our friends, tried to put a memorial for him. And she put a very nice statement. She said, I know the guy, I know what he stands for, and I'm going to make a memorial for him. And you know what they did over here? They decided that we're not going to have a memorial for the guy because we're afraid of what riots can happen. A country that is afraid is not going to be able to survive, my friends. It's not. If we are not going to stand for what is right, we are not going to be able to succeed in this country and keep it going. I came to this country so I would not have fear. Now I'm fearful for my life. You know, the day that actually this took place and they were saying that they're going to shut down the Midtown, my son was going to Creighton for a course. And that day I decided, you know what, I'm not going to let you drive down there. And I took him, I took my gun with me. For the first time, I felt not safe in this country. Today, same thing. Should I be in despair? No. Actually, that was a weak moment for me. Today, I'm going to claim, like I said, the things I said earlier. Our hope, our success, our everything is in our faith in Christ. We are not going to be able to pull out of this. So going back to the dictators are trying to do, they are trying to spread fear, despair, weakness. I'm not going to let them. And I encourage you not to let them as well. You know, from the virus or from the racial divide and from the polls. You know, who in his good, mind think that somebody will vote for Biden? Okay? I'm not supposed to talk about, person voting for 501c3, but let's look, is the polls, do you believe the polls? I don't know what to say, but I'm not going to continue talking about the polls. But do not let the polls discourage you. Vote what God is telling you to do, okay? Yeah. Other thing I want to talk about today, actually, after following with this, is what Trump is doing in the Middle East. For multiple times, do we have time or not? Still have time, right? So in the Middle East, and for many times, for the last few years, I talked about the deal of the century. And how many of you have been here to hear about it before? Some of you, and some of you did not, right? I talked about Obama and what he's trying to do in the Middle East. I talked about Obama trying to replace the governments by the Muslim Brotherhood. One of the big things, actually, for Obama was trying to do is to exclude Israel and give the Palestinians Jerusalem back and give the Palestinians a state, a country, equal footing with Israel, and to put Israel on alert in multiple ways. Imagine the plan of Obama, for example. If you look at, if every country in the Middle East was governed by a Muslim Brotherhood, Islamist style, like Muhammad, the Prophet Muhammad kind of a style, ISIS kind of a style, right? In every government over there. And the Palestinians is taking majority of the land. How long is it going to take for Israel to survive in this kind of environment? Zero, really. With its mighty power and all that kind of stuff, it's not going to have much time to survive. That was Obama's plan. What is Trump's plan is actually accepting the reality of what's going on. I have so much to talk about, but here is what Trump is trying to accomplish and how he accomplished so far, and what I talked about, the deal of the century. The deal of the century I talked about is in a collective plan before, but the way that they implemented it, for many reasons that they were implemented into stages that they did today, is because of the chaos that's happening in America for the last 3 years, and also but because of what Israel was facing as well and Netanyahu was facing. So what is happening today, so you can understand what I'm talking about? The total kind of plan, the collective plan, is to give Israel the land that it belongs to it, that is accepting the reality on the ground and making Jerusalem the eternal capital of Israel as the Bible teaches. This is the first part. The second part, work with, not forcing them, working with the Muslim countries that is in existence right now around Israel to accept the reality that Israel is a country that exists. I don't know how many of you know this, but Israel was formed in 1948. You know that, right? Till a couple of weeks ago, a country like United Arab Emirates, UAE, and Bahrain ignored that fact, that Israel is right there, but it does not exist. Well, it makes like a simple thing that maybe some of you know that or not, but the reality is if an airliner, for example, wants to fly over or have an emergency, they cannot let them land in their country because we don't recognize you. If you come in our space, we're not going to respond to your communication, and we're going to shoot you down if you are actually in our feed. There is no relationship whatsoever with them. This is how they ignore the fact that there is a country in the midst. The country exists right there. They fight with it sometime, but still they did not recognize it, as if they are fighting with an invisible army or something. But they have, and usually the invisible army beat the heck, right? But they still do not recognize them. This is the fact. So until Trump came in and said, we're going to recognize the fact that Israel already is in control of Jerusalem, and the biblical principle says that it is their land, so we're going to give it to them. All of those countries that ignore the existence of Israel, let us accept the reality, because you know what? If you look at the map, Israel is right there. So how about accepting that reality? And many of the Muslim countries start working with Trump to do that. And then the third part is, what about the Palestinians? What's he going to do with them? Well, the common sense says those guys who are not having a unified government, that actually are living in a fantasy that they have a country before and they want to get it back, because here is the reality. There was never been in history a country called Palestine. I don't know if you know that or not, but you can check it out. There is no country called Palestine. They say we have the keys to the country, we have the heritage, we have the nation, we have a claim. You have no claim. You have never owned that country because that country never existed. So what basically Trump is saying, you know what, let's accept reality. You never have a country, but I am very generous. I'm going to give you a country. Do not take Jerusalem because it's not yours. Do not take the West Bank, it's not yours. Gaza is you. Where are you standing? I'm going to expand that to you. I'm going to give you infrastructure and give you a better life and maybe help you get a better government so you can get started in this life we live in 2020 and live in the reality that we live in. And by the way, we're going to help you. We're going to give you funds. We're going to give you money. We're going to give you all what you need so you can have a better hope. So basically accepting the reality. The Palestinians have a country, even though they never had one. The Arabs accepting the existence of Israel because it has been there for 70-something years, giving Jerusalem and giving the land that is already belonged to Israel to it. It's common sense, don't you think? But you know who doesn't like that common sense? The left. And who is the biggest one who doesn't like that? Obama. He was hating that. You know, at the last years of his presidency, God forbids they will ever come back again, you know, that he did not even meet with Netanyahu. He wants to meet with somebody that will accept his plan and give his land. And Netanyahu refused to do that for years. And this is why he gave power to so forth. So what we're living today is really a fake fear. What you need to do is look behind and all of that stuff. The virus exists. The racial divide exists. There is prejudice exists. But it's not in the same level that everybody's talking about. And the despair in the streets, it will go away. It will go away. You know, two things that make it go away. Number one, if there is victory in in November, you know, I heard quite and clear that unleashed power is going to be put in the streets. Unleashed power is going to put in the streets. Law and order will be brought into this country. And plans is going to move forward. by bringing peace in the Middle East, prosperity to America, and a better future when dealing with China and other countries. This is what we need to pray for and fight for. And by the way, God will usher this victory, not us, but we have to do our plan. Okay? I'm going to take some questions. Do you have questions or not?
Yes, we do, Mark.
If you have, or we can take some from here. Go ahead. Go ahead. Actually, I talked about it during the lunch in more. The question is about how many countries are supposed to sign in. The biggest countries that's supposed to sign in is Egypt, Saudi Arabia. Like I said that multiple times. I have the list that I gave you before and who is before it and who is against it. Maybe I need to bring this again. Vicky told me to do that and I did not, so I'm in trouble. So I will bring the list and the map that I had way back, 2 years or 3 years ago. The biggest prize today is Saudi Arabia, the next step. And Trump, even though you think he's always slip and say stuff that he's not supposed to say, and that happens a lot, he's not my savior, by the way. God is my savior, right? God is using him as he used many of messed up people in the past, and I appreciate all of them. I kind of appreciate Paul as well and what he did in the Bible, even though he did not have the best past, right? So Trump is not my savior. He slipped in and talked about Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is the prize, one of the biggest players into this game, and Egypt. There is two things. Saudi Arabia doesn't want to sign up today and make the announcement except after the election. They think that they have so much heavy weight and left and, a big difference that will take place, but they want to do that after the election, not before that, because they're afraid what's going to happen next, okay? Egypt is the same thing. Egypt, the president of Egypt, whom I know very well, and I met him a couple of times before, so I know him very well and how Islamist he is. He did a two hours speech 2 days ago, kind of prepping the people of Egypt into this. And there is riots in Egypt, by the way, against it already. But he is stopping. He's a dictator, so riots stops in 5 minutes over there because the guns gets out, which is bad. It's horrible. But Egypt is going to be accepting that because they're going to provide part of their land to the new Palestinians, and Saudi Arabia is going to be the biggest prize as well. Because every other country. Today, you have Morocco, you have Sudan, even Sudan is not a country, but Sudan and Oman. So many countries already signed them. The biggest countries that in objection, it's in my list, is Qatar and Turkey. Qatar and Turkey. Qatar is, both of them are backing Obama. Both of them are Muslim Brotherhood, funding. Both of them are completely against Trump and his plan. But he's twisting his arm and they are screaming, I can tell you that. Both of them, okay? He's really doing that. But all of those people are fighting, and those enemies are not small enemies. They are big enemies. And by the way, I have a list in my email that we send out, that Vicky sent out, that talks about every agenda that the left is trying to accomplish and answer for that. What is the promise of healthcare? Is it true or not? In a very small sentence. I wish all of you will use to understand and to fight back when people talk about the racial divide, the immigration. Small sentences just give you an idea what's going on. I tried hard on it. You can look it up and see if you can even add to it and so forth. Make sense? Okay. You have a question? I can take one online and then I can take yours. Do you have online or not?
Yes, we do, Mark. There are a couple of questions about COVID in here. Is the push for masks more about fear and control? Are doctors being pressed to attribute COVID to deaths that may not be completely COVID? And can you relate that to the push for mail-in voting? And how
both of them, like mail-in voting?
Yes.
Well, the statements you made about the doctors being political and the mask being political, all of that's true, right? So there's no answer for that, and I think everybody knows that. If you have disagreement, please let me know your disagreement about if the mask and if the doctors many of them are political or not. Because real doctors are not. They are trying to treat their patients and trying to do the right thing. And I know a lot of doctors who are doing that. and awesome doctors, by the way. There is awesome doctors all over the country who are doing their job and curing the disease. And some of them actually complaining about there's lack of patients coming to their clinic, not overwhelmed like the media is trying to tell us. You know, they are saying that the COVID is actually hurting the business of doctors, not the opposite, okay? Going back to the mail-in ballot, you have to understand this, okay? The left is going to do two ways to win this election. One of them is cheating, and everybody knows that. The second thing is trying to rally up and get everybody out there who is ignorant, who doesn't know anything about politics, who are very lazy even to get off their chairs, I have to use the right words, okay, to get off their couch and go vote. So they're going to send them mail-in ballots so they can sign it or somebody sign it for them and send it in so they can increase the pool, the pool of the electorate and get a large number of people to vote in because they know the tight race and so forth. And they push so much fear that there is people sitting on their couches, have no idea about Israel, even they don't know where it exists. They don't know even anything about China other than they have an Xbox and this is awesome, that is made in China, and their iPhone is made in China, so China is good. Why not? And they hear about all of that, have no idea about what's going on in the country. And they put Black Lives Matter, have no idea what that is. They have no idea about anything. And you can testify to that, right? There is lots of people out there who are not aware of anything. Rob and I were one time in, where we're at, in California? No, it was in the Bourbon Street.
Yes, Bourbon Street.
Yeah.
We're on Canal Street.
Walking down Bourbon Street. Huh? Bourbon? Yes. New Orleans, yes. And seeing tons of people that, well, have you ever been there? Yeah. Well, I went there. I'm not going to go there again. I'm going to tell you that, right? And when you look at those and we talk about it and said, you know what, guess what? Those people can vote. Right? Because it's scary. So this is what they are targeting. They are targeting people like this and even worse. I wish every American will be educated because there's people fought for this country to give them the opportunity to be indifferent and oblivion like they are. So they need at least to know the reason that they have the blessings that they have, right? But they don't. So they are working on that. This is why the mail ballot in. Mail ballot in to increase the pool and get the idiots. And the second thing, I'm sorry I'm using the word idiots, I don't know. My vocabulary is very small. I'm second language. That's my excuse, okay? Any more questions over here? We still have a few minutes left.
Yeah. I have a question.
Can we stay till 7:15? Is that okay? Are you? If anybody wants to leave early, that's fine. But I would love to go to 7:15 so I can take some questions. I'm not going to be offended whatsoever. Go ahead.
We have a tradition in the electoral years here called the October surprise.
Yes.
What do you think is going to be the October surprise?
Actually, what I heard from unnamed resources, I can have my unnamed resources too, right? That the deep state have been sending, let me go back for a second. The deep state have been sending lots of people in the inner circle of the administration. And one of the things that is predicted is, you know, the debate is coming soon, right? One of the things that people are predicting is that there are going to be some kind of a rat, a mole, or a surprise before this debate will take place that will make, that is not credible whatsoever, but the person that will say it or the people who will say it sounds credible and will put a problem with the debate, that the debate is not going to happen, and Biden will claim, I am actually, way above this to have a debate with Trump and so forth. So this is one of the things that I heard from unnamed resources. I hope it's going to never happen because I would love to see that debate. I'm going to tell you that. Away from anything else, I would love to see that debate, right? It's going to be the most entertaining show ever. I can tell you that. Okay? Any more questions?
Mark, we have a couple more from our video audience. This might be a question more related to post-election and post-inauguration.
Yes.
Is the Muslim Brotherhood likely to be declared a terrorist organization, and when would that happen?
Actually, before the question about the Muslim Brotherhood, and let me explain something before I even answer that. The forces that is going on in the country today of evil has a lot to do with the Islamist movement. People in America trying to ignore that. They're talking about communist, socialist, and other things. The fact of the matter is that the Islamist movement is aiding, if not on top of the list of the people who are fighting, it's actually one of the major forces behind the evil in the country today. And I have said that numerous times. Islamist movement is not about terrorist attack only. They scheme and they fight and they plan, and this is their strength behind closed doors. This is their strength. And I'm speaking from an authority because my father and my uncle and my great uncle are members and founders of that organization, okay? The second thing is this organization will ever be announced as a terrorist organization in the country? Unfortunately, no. The fact of the matter is we have laws in America, and it is going to be impossible because here is the thing, the Muslim Brotherhood exists in this country not by foreign nationals, but by born American citizens today. And it is very difficult and even impossible for any president or any authority in the country to go and announce an organization with the level of infiltration of the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. And because that will follow up by confiscating all their properties, denying their licenses of practice, and many, many other things. And it is going to be difficult beyond belief for the legal system to be able to stand this kind of fight, even with the judges and the Supreme Court and so forth. We have no chance to do that. But we have the chance to identify the enemy and eliminating them from our midst, not by announcing them a terrorist organization, but by announcing that this movement is a seditious movement that's trying to bring this country down on its knees.
Thank you.
I'll let the question, but don't make a statement. Question, please, because I want to take more. Go ahead. Go ahead, Larry. Go ahead.
Bear in mind that October is the anniversary of the Russian Revolution, 1916. The October surprise is the president comes up every election.
Yeah.
And as you were saying, they're likely to do anything. This month's issue of the Trump and magazine kind of summarizes a lot of what you said tonight, and pointing out that the influence that the Iranians have.
Oh, absolutely.
Is going to rapidly fall apart. But what comes in its place is what we have.
Yes. So the question is about the Russians and the Iranians' involvement. Let me say something that Trump did in the last couple of weeks. I don't know how many of you know this or not, but during all of those midst, you know, one of the things that Saudi Arabia needs so bad so they can do whatever Trump wants them to do as well is actually eliminating the threat of Iran. And it's not only doing it for Saudi Arabia, but doing for the rest of the world, doing for the country, doing it for the Middle East, doing it for Israel, doing for everything. Iran is a real threat, right? So Trump administration was able to find an element in the deal that Obama did that says that if the Iranians violated the deal, then the United States or any other country who signed on it have the authority to issue an ultimatum through the United Nations to the Iranians and tell them that they have to completely destroy their uranium and stop their efforts and let us go investigate, or they're going to have sanctions and even more than before, okay? So the Trump administration did this a few days ago. I don't know, I can remember 5 days or 6 days ago. The United States started implementing this. Mike Pompeo was over implementing those rules and this effort. And then Britain and the French and the German was trying to oppose the United States. Here is the thing. If we have a better outcome in this coming election, Iranian regime will fall apart immediately because of the sanctions and the despair that they have economically and otherwise. But if we have an unfavored outcome, Iranian regime will be stronger than ever before. Because here is the thing. European countries, not because they like Iranians or whatever, they find Iran as an amazing opportunity for business. They want to send their French cars and Italian stuff over there and build factories and so forth. And they see this is a country that has been under siege for years. It's an amazing, place for business, and they want to do this no matter what. They don't care about anything other than that. So, and Trump is doing this as well. Go ahead. You have a question? Horrific. The ban of the hydroxychloroquine by governors, that's a horrific thing. You know, here is the thing that I don't know if you know this or not. The virus, the way it works, and I'm going to explain why hydroxychloroquine works. The virus, the way it works, you know, it's a novel virus, so it's a new virus. The system of the body does not know about it, okay? I'm going to give you like an example. You know, you watch those movies when you have, those military movies, and you have an enemy comes in, then the military forces will identify the enemy, and they will send the right appropriate forces to kill it, right? So if you have a tank coming in, they know what kind of missiles to use. If they have a person coming in, if an organized military, we're able to do that, right? But then in those movies with the Transformers, you know, you have this huge big thing that the military has no idea what that is. Then the military goes in chaos and fight it with everything they have, and the end result is chaos and the whole system is destroyed, right? This is how it works in most movies. This is exactly how the virus works. The virus comes in the body with unidentified whatsoever. The body does not know how to fight it. So the whole immune system goes like in chaos, like a crazy army, doesn't know what to do with it, and overwhelmingly throw everything at it from everywhere, including destroying some of the cells in the body, whether it's the lung cells, kidney, liver, and so forth, right? So the best way is to do it is to kind of put the immune system on hold so it can fight it one step and say, you know, guys, calm down for a little bit. We're gonna, you know, just work on it one step at a time. Because the virus itself is not lethal. It is actually the reaction of the body that is lethal. So hydroxychloroquine, what it does is, decrease the immunity response a little bit. And this is why they use also steroids, because it decreases the immunity response. And this is why you give other things to fight it. So as soon as you decrease the immunity response, the hydroxychloroquine and other medications works as well. And by the way, there is lots of antiviral drugs that other doctors are using across the globe that is working. This is why in other countries they have less numbers and all that kind of stuff. If we dealt with the virus, you know, as normal response by a country will respond to the virus, as a public health government try to minimize the spread, and then let the doctors decide the medications and what they can use without trying to tell the doctors nothing is going to work. You know, the vaccine is not going to work. The vaccine is not going to work. Hydroxychloroquine is not going to work. So no, it's not going to work. Anything, if you say anything, is not going to work. Why? Because they do not want anything to work. And this is why the hydroxychloroquine is kind of banned, because they don't care about the number of people die. They care about, and you know what the doctors do? They go around it. The doctors, the real doctors out there, they go around it. They find a way to you know, hydroxychloroquine was banned for the coronavirus. The majority of patients have other disease. So some doctors, many of them, and I know that, they go around it and prescribe it for other reasons and get into the insurance, and it goes on. So for whatever, yes. Yes, all the kind of stuff, right. And this is the problem of the virus that has overwhelmed the system. I hope that makes sense to you and understand what I'm talking about, okay? Any more questions? We have 4 minutes.
Mark, we do have some questions from the field. Getting back to the Middle East. You talked about Iran and the danger it presents to Saudis as well. Speaking of Saudi Arabia, is there a possibility that they might be tempted in time to work with Palestinians? What do you think about
this? Well, here is the thing. Saudis, I don't trust Saudis. I don't trust anybody that has an ideology that is following Islam, because deception and lies is part of it. The thing is, most of those countries understand mutual benefits, and they understand power more than anything else. The Saudis are working with Trump today because he's a powerful man. He's providing them with an opportunity. If things change, this is why Saudi Arabia is sitting on the sidelines. If things change, they will change. Immediately they will change. Why? Because this is what they do. They're going to look at the way they benefit themselves. You know, here is an interesting thing, and I actually going to put it on the Vic is going to put it on the email, you know, in a couple of days. There is a doctor, Saudi doctor, who lives in Saudi Arabia, who was attacked because she was wearing provocative stuff inside of Saudi Arabia. You know, Saudi Arabia started kind of be less pushing for Sharia and stuff like that. And this girl, you know, a young lady, she's a doctor, young lady, and she's wearing provocative stuff, and she becoming very popular on social media. So people attacked her and said, why are you not worrying the Saudi government and protecting yourself and covering yourself and so forth? So she responded in the most amazing way. She said, who told you that I believe in your Islam? Who told you that I believe in your Quran? And even your prophet. She said that in Saudi Arabia. What about your prophet Muhammad? Your prophet Muhammad. And what she said? The man, Muhammad, raped Safiya, one of his wives, and killed her brother and her father all in one day. How can I believe in somebody like that? That's in Saudi Arabia. You know, you remember the cartoons during Obama and what happens with it? And guess what? Saudi Arabia did not arrest the girl till today. Why? Because they're afraid of Trump. That's the change that's taking place. They're going to change. Well, she's probably going to die. She's going to find a way to get out of there because it's not going to for long because the pressure is so bad in Saudi Arabia. But this is the kind of language that this country understands and this ideology understands. Power, equal benefits, and mutual benefits. If we keep the power, keep the strength on them, then they will do what we're asking them to do. If we change, they will go to Obama in no time. Okay, so what we need to do, strong leadership in this country, standing for what country stands for and standing for the values of our Christian faith. This is why those people will understand what we are talking about. Otherwise, compromise does not work and go back to the same thing. So I want to thank all of you for coming today. Do not lose faith. Do not lose hope. Keep fighting. Do not give up whatsoever. Do your best. And please, please, support us if you can and try to go to everybody around you and tell them with real, information about how to win this coming, election. Okay? Thank you very much. I'll turn it to Rob very quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mark. What a tremendous insight into what's going on today. I would like to remind you that we'd have our October meeting coming up that will be the usual schedule. We have November, which will probably be a week early. So make a note of that.
Thanksgiving is coming in. I'm going to be celebrating. So we're going to do it a week early, okay?
Well, I wasn't going to say anything, but yes, it's about Thanksgiving. All right. We also have an event coming up in October. This is the Fear versus Freedom event with Pastor Stephen Broden and Congressman Don Bacon. This is an event this is not a campaign event. We're honored to have the congressman with us, but we will have Pastor Broden in. What a powerful speaker. And we are going to talk about, I think for those of you locally, but we want to make sure our video listenings, especially those within driving distance of Omaha, are able to come to the German American Club Saturday night from 7 to 9 p.m., October 17th. Pastor Broden will be answering. We will discuss why 62% of Americans fear expressing their political opinions. My goodness, and this is America. We want to send you with prayers and best wishes and guidance for the election coming up, and I'd like to close with a prayer. Dear Lord, bless our meeting. Bless everyone in attendance here and unable to attend who will watch later. Bless all of us as we approach this election season, that we consider you in our actions ongoing, that you give us strength and guidance in Jesus' name. Amen. Please go to globalfaith.org and find out what's going on, keep up to date, and please bless us with your donations. Thank you.